Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, a podcast about leaving self-doubt in the dust, punching fear in the face, and taking bold action toward your biggest dreams. I'm Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me is my new friend, Jen from Becoming Iconic. Say hi, Jen.
Hey, glad to be here.
Hey. I love it. So tell us a little bit about your business and what you do. Becoming Iconic sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is. And a pretty divine company name, to be quite honest with you, in many ways. But I have been a coach and mentor for over 20 years and started in marketing and public relations. In corporate, moved into entrepreneurial space 20 years ago. And so Becoming Iconic was something that came up in 2019 where I decided I really wanted to dive deep into personal branding and really come clear in terms of what I desired to offer and also the experience I wanted to give to the people who were coming into my world. So the term Becoming Iconic was quite divine because I was really resistant to it. It's like, iconic. Who am I to say iconic? And will people be even turned off by the word? That was a bit of a concern for me, to be totally honest. But it kept coming back. And then the word becoming married it. And it was like a divine moment of, yes, it's about the becoming. And iconic will mean a different thing to each person. Maybe to someone, it's iconic mom. They just really want to pour into their children and stay home and raise them and savor every moment. Maybe for somebody else, it's iconic in their entrepreneurial space. I want to be an iconic mentor and really stand apart and that searching and that pursuit of the best and greatest version of ourselves. So that's what it stands for. And it's morphed itself into this beautiful space of not just mentorship, but I am now an editor of a magazine, which is complimentary. So people can come and check that out. But it is a haven for entrepreneurs. Think of it like Vogue meets Forbes, and also a top rated podcast globally and a boutique agency as well for entrepreneurs who are seeking world-class branding support in the back end of their businesses.
I love that. How on earth did you get into that? Like, I know that you said that you've been coaching for a while, and I'm just curious as to like how, because you said it just was perfect how all of that came together. I'm curious about that.
Trusting. That was a new thing for me. Right. Trusting ourselves. We are raised and we have been brought up in a culture where we look outside of ourselves for validation. I can't tell you how many times I meet with people and they say, well, I need to ask permission to do this, or, I'm so worried about what people will think of me. We stop ourselves from the most beautiful, exquisite existence because we are so fixated on what people think of us. And so it was this mirror moment for me where I decided to look in the mirror and ask myself, what would really fulfill me? And I realized how creative I am. And I always thought of creativity like artistic ability to draw a picture or paint a picture. That is the furthest thing from my capabilities. My creativity comes through in the willingness to have playfulness in my business, in my life, to try things, to be curious. And so in that state, a lot of things came to fruition because I gave it the space and I gave it the time. And I also gave myself the permission and trust to try things without this huge expectation and worry about what people would think. And instead think about my fulfillment.
Oh, I love so much about that. I was like furiously scribbling notes about things that I wanted to really highlight and underline for everybody that's listening. One, I love that you pointed out this idea of creativity, because I think there are a lot of folks that have that same definition that you did. You draw, you write, you sing, you do whatever. It's this like particular narrow lane of artistic expression. I've always seen creativity as the ability to connect two seemingly unrelated ideas in a way that surprises people. And so that's not necessarily art, although it can be art. But there are creative business people, there are creative engineers, there are creative software developers. Like, creativity is not just an artistic thing. So I would challenge everybody listening here. You're probably more creative than you give yourself credit for. And finding connections is really the way that you do that. Also love that you talked about being playful. I've mentioned it on the show, I think a time or two, but I did my first event earlier this year and I tried to sell it on the back of, can I convince my business buddies to come to Las Vegas and drive bulldozers with me? That seems like fun. I feel like fun belongs somewhere in this whole crazy business world. So I'm going to incorporate it in. And it turned out to be one of the best experiences, not only of my life, but everybody that attended was raving about it too, because I immediately followed that. We go dig in the dirt, move tires, literally spin around in a 6-ton excavator. It was so much fun. And then go back and go straight into a brainstorming exercise where rule number 1 is all ideas are on the table right now. And everybody had so much fun with that process. So yes, fun is necessary. It is scientifically proven to be beneficial to not only kids, but also adults. Relieves stress, improves communication. Go play. Just do it.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. And we take ourselves far too seriously. We take our businesses far too seriously. And when we do that, we start to box ourselves. We start to live by the rules. We start to feel like there's only one way to be successful. And that's so stifling. And when you realize that one way is not the way, and actually, what if we pioneered a new way? Like that to me excites me. When I did the magazine, so many people, even mentors, were telling me, you know what? I get it that you have this sense of fashion. You went to school for it. I get that you love style, but how does that fit into what you're doing? You're doing business and life coaching. And to me, it always made sense. I thought, but it's like that expression of self. That's why I loved fashion. And it was when I finally said, no, I can't stop this hum. And it just got louder and louder and louder. I'm going to do this. And if it makes no sense to anybody else out there, it's okay because it makes total sense to me. And the most beautiful result came from it. Everybody is floored. They love it. I'm sending that magazine worldwide now. There's subscribers all over the world because it's like finally a place where I can learn about food and style and relationships and being a mompreneur and how to grow a business. And it's so much fun. And I think, imagine if I had listened to everybody else and I never did this.
Oh man, that's so important to me because some point last year, on this crazy whirlwind digital nomad thing I've been doing for a couple years now, I had this stunningly clear revelation. Like the words just popped into my head and I've made it a rule of my life and my business ever since. I am not going to be the reason that someone gives up on themselves to the best of my capabilities. So you're not going to hear me working with coaching or consulting folks or even on this podcast saying you can't do that. I'm going to say, here are some opportunities. Here are some challenges that I see. I haven't seen anybody do that before, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. Why don't you be the one that shows us how it's all done? Yeah. That's the kind of leader and mentor that I want to be to my people, empowering you to do it. And I love that you followed your own gut instead of, again, that circles back beautifully to what you said about seeking outside validation. Because I fell into that trap for too long. I would throw these crazy, I'm going to go drive bulldozers in the desert with my friends, ideas out there. And I would have people tell me everything that's wrong with it. Here are all the dangers, as if I haven't obsessed over that and told myself everything that could go wrong to the 100th degree, right? And I would talk myself out of it because these mentors, they must know something that I don't, right? But it turns out that voice doesn't go away. And it tells me to do this thing, regardless of how much sense it makes to other people. And in the end, when I did it, it was a standout experience that has people asking me, when are you going to do the next one? The answer is, I don't know, but it's coming. And it became a point where like there are certain mentors that I love and I absolutely adore them as people. And I know if they tell me they don't think that idea will work, then I need to go for it.
You're rebellious, aren't you? I like it.
Tiny bit.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, it's too many years of following the prescribed rules and that idea of the one path to success. Oh man, I bought into that so hardcore. And that's really the impetus for the name of the show to begin with, like giving yourself permission that you don't need permission from anybody else other than yourself. And that stemmed from when I first wanted to do coaching. And my mentor was like, I feel like you're waiting for somebody to anoint you an expert, but you don't actually need that. You can go help people exactly as you are right now, exactly what you know right now. And if you're waiting for that, like I hereby anoint you expert, and you have permission to go out there and kick some ass and help some people. And I was like, I am stealing that for later. So
That's amazing. And isn't it amazing when someone pours belief into us? Sometimes that is
Mhm.
truly the spark to ignite us into the belief in ourselves. I always find people have a crack in their belief when they're trying to grow a business and their lives, because it's to me the same thing. It's either themselves, it's their offerings, or it's the other people in their lives. So, or how do I describe this? The clients. So I was just working with one of my private clients on this, and she's launching something extraordinary. It's so good. And there's a disconnect. And I said to her, where's the crack? And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, do you believe in yourself to bring this value forward? And she said, absolutely. Like, that's unwavering. And I said, okay, do you believe in what you're offering? Like, is this offering aligned? Does it feel good in your body? Do you know that people will benefit? She's like, absolutely. And I said, and do you believe in the people to see this and feel this and hear this and come into your world? And then there was this pause. And she's like, oh, that's it. I think I have a bit of crack with people. Like, will they hear me, see me? And so we ended up looping it right back to her. But anyway, I find those types of questions and what you're offering, even in what you're suggesting here with thinking outside of the box and doing things your own way, is to be so responsible for ourselves, as personal responsibility, and reflective, and the willingness to look at things, and the willingness to dig in, and the willingness to be playful and curious. Like, all of these things, can we be willing to do all of that without attaching it to judgment and shame and guilt and shoulds and all the things that, take away the energy and life of the very thing we're supposed to bring forward?
Oh, yes. And I heard, I'm going to mess up this quote so hardcore, so forgive me for that in advance, but I heard it phrased something like this, that worry is living in the future and anxiety is living in the past. So if you can focus on living in the present, those will be greatly diminished, because you can't really control anything about the future, and you certainly can't change anything about the past. So what kind of energy are you spending on that? And it's the same thing. I could go, well, here are all the ways that bulldozers could go wrong, and doing my own, like, I should just follow the proven process that everybody else has followed, right? The one method trademark doesn't exist. But anyway, or I could dig in and be curious. I love that idea of it, because it turns it into an experiment versus, oh my gosh, if I do this and I fail, it's going to be the end of everything. Well, what if you fail? But let's swing that pendulum back the other way. What if you win beyond your wildest dreams? That's a possibility too.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you called it an experiment. That's really great. And I also heard you say something too that's like, what's the evidence, or be the evidence?
I love that. Looking for evidence. One of my friends put this way on a call the other day, and I really loved how she phrased it. Confidence is remembered competence. And I was like, oh my goodness, right? When you can look, you may not have done this exact thing that you're trying to do right now, but you've probably done something similar, or you've done something that uses the same skills. So there's some remembered competence there that you can borrow for confidence. And the other thing I think could be that bucket of, other people believing in you. Borrow some belief if you don't have some in yourself. But there's definitely people out there that are going, wild, crazy idea that's absolutely different from everybody else in the universe. Hell yeah, let's do it. What do you need from me? How can I support you? Find those people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we can focus on all of the reasons why not. It only takes one reason why, or the vision, the focus, to make something come to fruition in such a beautiful way. And, coming back to the magazine, I know I keep talking about that, but because it's a more recent launch of mine, I had someone I didn't even know who was, following, maybe part of the community on Instagram, reach out in the DMs. And it was such a beautiful message, and saying, you finally showed me that I don't have to always make sense. And yes. I too have this passion for fashion. And I too am a coach. And I too have been told that I have to choose one or the other, that I can't do both well. And you just eradicated that advice and any excuse that I am sitting in to not bring this to life in my own way. And I thought, isn't that what this is all about? One person being impacted, one person being changed as a result of our audacity. I thought, that's it. That's it. Amen. Like, here we go. And when did one person become not enough? Like, this is a whole other thing I could riff on. You know, so many people think I failed. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, I only have 2 people who bought my program or bought my service or bought my product. And I had to, you know, sit with someone 2 days ago and say, when did those 2 people become not enough? And are you going to be responsible for canceling on them and their dreams? They just said a big yes to themselves. They said a big yes to what you're offering. They deserve everything you've got. Like, there's 1,000 people in that room because you have the opportunity right now to change those 2 lives. And as soon as she brought herself back down, like from head to heart is what I would say happens. Doesn't 3 more people sign up for her program within the last 24 hours? But because she was in this disappointment, oh, I failed. Oh, this isn't enough. She was in the way of more people saying yes. And so we do that so often. And I really believe that we start with one and we give as much gratitude to that first person as we do to the 100th person, the 1,000th person. And we never get complacent in that gratitude. We never get complacent in our success, and certainly in the hunger for success.
Absolutely. Start with one. I want to make that a t-shirt, a slogan. I'm not going to go quite so far as tattooing it on my forehead, but maybe I'll add it to my other tattoos that are currently covered up that you can't see, and they can't see the video anyway. But this, you know, we often, and business owners, we're humans too, right? We're prone to human thoughts and human irrationalities. And that means that we don't always operate on logic. One of my favorite illogical things when, you know, because I'm a marketing consultant, is this attachment to numbers, like you mentioned. We'll pull a random number out of our behinds and say, I'm aiming for 100 people to enroll in this. Why? I don't know. 100 seems like a nice round number. I think I could get that based on the number of people that are on my list. That's the target that I'm aiming for. And so you get 20, and that's still I'm pulling another number out of the air, but maybe that's a $60,000 result for your business, that I got 20 people into this program. And they're going, well, damn it, I missed out on 100. But you got 20 people right there that are like, hell yeah, full body, hell yeah, I'm in, let's do this thing. What's wrong with that? I see one sale as a sign, and you may have worked really, really hard for that one sale. And guess what? Let's flip that on its end. That one person that just bought into your program or whatever you sold is going to get the best freaking experience of their lives, because they have got your full attention. They get to work with you on developing this from start to finish. And how much do you think they're going to go tell all their friends how much they loved working with you? Wow. What an asset, right?
Yes. So good. And it's so true. And our expectations. You know, I was talking to a private client today. These are like great work. Like, we're just having a great conversation because it's bringing up a lot of, you know, I was talking to a private client today about expectations. And one of the realizations I've had recently is that disappointment comes when our expectations are outside of ourselves. Like, so we're expecting 100 people in, and when we don't have that 100 people, we have disappointment. And I thought, what if the expectation was always about ourselves? The expectation of leadership and compassion and empathy and generosity and value and giving our best. Because then the only level of disappointment we would ever feel is the encouragement to be better. It's like, oh, I didn't do that to my best. How can I be better? And then we pursue that. So to me, that feels like a much more abundant way of existing than having all these expectations of things that I cannot control, but I can definitely control the standards and the standards of excellence that I have for myself.
I love that perspective switch, because I think so much of how we make ourselves crazy as human beings is by focusing on stuff that is so far out of our control that we can't do anything about it. I cannot control who says yes to becoming a client. I can't really even control the number of sales that I make. I can control the messaging. I can control how I show up and do my best. If I'm not getting the sales that I need, I can control going out there and trying to get in front of more people, or tightening my sales message to where it's more appealing and it's reaching the right people better. And those are the things that I can control, but I cannot absolutely force that person on the other end to sign up for whatever it is that we're doing. I can't convince them to do something that they're unwilling to do. And I'm not going to drive myself nuts thinking that I can control another human being. I can barely control myself, y'all.
Oh, the release of that, the surrender in that, and the trust. I mean, it comes back down to personal trust.
Oh, I love that too, because that's a conversation that seems to bewilder some of my new coaching students. Well, I tell them, I want you to fire me. And they're like, wait, what? I'm like, if you have been working with me for years, like if we're projecting ourselves into the future and you've been working with me for years and we're still dealing with the same problems that we started with, I consider that a personal failure. And I would also consider that being you ceding some of your personal power to me. Like you're looking to me for leadership, to make decisions for you, to help you live your life. And I'm not judging you if that's where you're at, because we've definitely all gone through periods where like, you know what? I'm done lifing today. I would like somebody else to steer the wheel for a while. That's cool. Just don't do it for 3 years in a row, man. Like, I know that firsthand that some of my coaching students find me to be a very frustrating coach because I don't answer questions directly. I don't give someone a recommendation for what I think they should do or how I would handle it, because how I would handle it is completely dependent on my own life circumstances, which briefly mentioned it. I'm a digital nomad. My life circumstances are very different from most of the population just by the way I live, not to mention family history, personal experience, all the other dynamics layered in too. I don't want to make decisions for you. I don't know your life. Even if we talk every day, I don't really know what it's like to be in your head. I don't want to make that decision. I don't want to have that power over you. So every time I answer somebody's question with another question, they're like, will you just give me an answer? I'm like, the answer's already in you, friend. And the challenge is that we've got a lot of different competing voices and narratives and stories and information that are bearing it. And all I'm doing in asking questions is asking you to get in here and dig with me. We're going to find it.
Yeah. And that's the best way to build confidence is by actually following through on the things you said you were going to do and acting in courage before you're ready. I mean, this is what builds confidence. And I think a lot of people wait for the feeling first. So you've got like more people than not on the sidelines waiting. When I feel like I'm the expert, or when I feel successful, or when somebody finally buys my product, then I'll get into the arena. And they end up sitting on the sidelines for far too long if they ever get off at all. The feeling never comes first. The feeling follows the action. So you've got to get in the arena with shaky knees and sweaty palms and do something radical or audacious. And all of a sudden you're like, that wasn't as hard as I thought. Or, oh, wow, people are genuinely interested in what I have to say. And that's where that confidence, that leadership starts to stem from. But it's unfortunate that most people wait.
Courage and commitment come before confidence. That was a lot of C's that I just threw out there. Alliteration for the win. But it's always courage and commitment first. Confidence isn't a thing that you can just wait for to happen to you. It's action-based, exactly like you said. And I can't even tell you, like, I've got an anxious persona. I know it doesn't necessarily translate with a show like Permission to Kick Ass, but I've spent so much time just wondering and stopping myself from starting because I'm imagining this giant mountain of a problem. And then when I actually force myself to face it, it's like an anthill on the ground. And I feel kind of dumb because I'm like, I just spent months spiraling out of control about this ridiculously unsolvable, insurmountable problem of mine. And I could just kick it over with my shoe. What is going on there between the ears? So I've learned to solve those by, first of all, not getting in my own head about it. If I start spiraling on something for a little while, that's my sign to start talking to people I trust and going, okay, well, I'm thinking of doing this. What might I be missing? Do you see anything that I don't see? Okay, I'm going to figure out how to make this. I'm going to do a plan of action. We're going to start taking baby steps toward this. And I'm not going to sit here forever anticipating how hard this is going to be and making it way bigger than it actually is.
You're wonderful, Angie.
You are wonderful too. I'm so excited by this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I wonder, and I hope, I mean, my hope is that people listening right now are really grasping some of the gold that is being expressed here, because oh my gosh, if just more people got this or heard these words and heard this wisdom, what would be possible for people? Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you for showing up the way you do. I'm in awe. It's beautiful.
Right back at you. I'm so happy we're having this talk today. And, it's funny. I was telling my business partner today, kind of grumpy. I kind of have these projects that I really want to work on that I'm super excited about. And I've got some recordings this afternoon. And there's part of me that goes, but I just want to keep working on this thing I'm excited about. But I also know from experience, having recorded so many of these episodes by now, every single time I get off one of these calls, I'm fired up. I love the human that I've just spoken to. I love the potential that we demonstrated just in being ourselves and talking about everything that we've been through on this wackadoodle journey that is life and building a business. My friend says wackadoodle, and I love it.
Very appropriate word. That's a great word, because that's what most days what it feels like. Wackadoodle.
Yes.
I mean, that's true.
Absolutely. It's so bizarre most days, and problems are going to pop up that you never anticipated in your life. Weird things are going to happen that you can't possibly plan for. So the only real action is to get out there and do things, even if you don't really know what you're doing, because the action itself is going to get you some more clarity, and it's going to play into that whole competence aspect. I did some things. Some of them went well. Some of them didn't go so well. But look, I'm a fairly competent person. I can figure things out. Maybe I can figure that out too. And on it goes.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And doing things even when you don't feel like it, kind of going back to that feeling, right? Of waiting for the feeling first. Mm-hmm. We all want to procrastinate. We all want to put things off. That's sort of the human experience in many ways, but it's doing things sometimes even when you don't feel like it, which could lead into a whole conversation around hustle culture. Because I think a lot of people resist that now because they're so exhausted and so, I guess the word is against hustle culture, and I'll blame them because I was raised in the hustle culture and I do not participate at all. But one of the things I think we've done by swinging the pendulum the other way is we've also lost a little bit of work ethic.
Yeah.
We've also lost a little bit of doing things even when we don't feel like it, knowing it's like a workout. You never really feel like it. Nobody is like, woo, I get to go work out. Maybe there are those listening in that are like that and bless your sweethearts, but that's certainly not my experience. But I know on the other side of doing my workout, how I always feel, just like this podcast, right? You didn't feel like necessarily stopping to record, but on the other side of this, you know what the result will be. So can we be better at doing things even when we don't feel like it sometimes?
Mm-hmm. That parallel is amazing. And it's so funny because this past week, I was at a conference and I wound up spending some time with friends of mine on a front porch. And that whole concept came up too, where somebody said, yeah, I don't like working out. And it's a slog convincing myself to actually go to the gym. And I can't think of a single time that I've ever been like, well, that was a bad call. I shouldn't have come today. It always feels amazing afterward. And it's the same thing that I've experienced with this podcast. Like I had something else I was excited to build for the day. I stopped because this is what I'm committed to. And that's something I ask myself. I got that tool from my personal coach. When I feel some emotions about something or I feel some resistance towards something, I have this tool that I use called the 4 A's. I learned that from Rhonda Britton and a brilliant coach, Brian McCarthy. And I acknowledge the feeling. I tell myself, hey, it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to feel grumpy. It's okay to feel like I don't want to do things. I allow the feeling to pass. Like mind like water, one of my other friends says. I just let it flow over me instead of trying to hold back the tide, because I can't do that. It's just going to mow me over. Then I ask myself what I'm committed to, and I act on my commitments. So what I'm committed to is putting on a damn good show. What I'm committed to is talking to entrepreneurs who show everybody else in the world what is possible just by getting up every day and being themselves and going through the same struggles that we all go through as humans. And then I act on the commitment, and I'm here having so much fun.
That's amazing. That's great advice. Really great advice. Because I think a lot of people just stop at the feeling or the emotion. It's like, that's the pause. And we don't always like feeling things. I remember with my breath coach saying to her once, that's it. I'm not going to feel guilty anymore. Like I am done. I'm done feeling guilty for all the things. And she kind of smirked, and I wasn't expecting that response. I was expecting to be like, yes, you're done with it. Oh, Jen, you cannot get rid of a human emotion. Your human experience, a part of it is guilt. So it's not that you can eradicate that emotion, but how quickly can you move through it? How effectively can you move through it? And I was like, that was one of those marker moments in my life that I'll never forget. It was like, you don't get rid of judgment. You don't get rid of sadness. You don't get rid of anger. You don't get rid of guilt. Those things are a part of us. But how effectively can we work through it? And what you just gave, that advice, is a brilliant way, a beautiful way of working through an emotion that may not be serving us.
Absolutely. You could keep like swimming and swimming and swimming in the ocean with all your might, or you can find that wave and just like let it wash over you, because it's actually pushing you toward the shore. So it's like in that way, you can save yourself a lot of effort, a lot of bandwidth by just working with what's happening instead of fighting it or pretending you're a robot superhuman. Newsflash, you're not. I'm not. Don't look at me as if I'm perfect. I'm sure Jen would say the same thing. Like, just because we're here talking about all this stuff doesn't mean that we've got it all figured out.
No, I mean, I say all the time, I've made mistakes. I made 3 in like the last hour. I mean, that's just what we do. And it's always about progression, not perfection. Perfection is also another way of just being really cute in an excuse. Like, I want it to be perfect. What a beautiful excuse to lean in on. I mean, let's just call that out. That is a really beautiful way of saying, I don't think I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready. So I just want it to be perfect. Okay, well, is there such a thing? I don't know. It's about progression. It's about moving forward. It's that becoming. And that's been my prayer since I can remember. I'm waking up every morning and saying, all I ask is that I'm better in some way every day. Not in everything, because that's, to me, maybe asking too much, but can I be intentional about something today? Being better, maybe in drinking more water, be better, maybe in presence with the person I'm with, be better in how I see things or view things. Like, how can I be better today? And that to me is what creates iconic lifestyles. It's that intention.
Oh, yeah. My business partner has this great saying that she constantly reminds me of, especially when I have fits of anxiety, because this woman is constantly pushing me out of my comfort zone with launching offers and stuff like that. But it's been so much fun. And she goes, every day, in every way, I'm becoming more of the Angie Coley that I am meant to be. And I was like, oh, I really like that in multiple levels, because it gives me grace for not doing so well on some days. But some days you do not your best so that you can learn what you need to do your best. And it's all good, baby. It's all, just keep moving forward. Don't lay down in the road and let life run you over. And it's very interesting that you brought up that whole idea of perfection. Perfectionism is procrastination, basically, as a stall tactic to putting yourself out there. Because again, we're looking for that validation from outside of ourselves. And we feel like if it's not perfect, the world is going to come crashing down on us in judgment. And don't get me wrong, there are some mean ass people out there that are just waiting for somebody else to do something. But that's, again, their issue. They need validation outside themselves because they can't stand to look at themselves. So they're looking at somebody else and going, haha, that guy over there sucks. Just acknowledge that about them and be like, man, I feel sorry that that's your life. But just all of this basically boils down to keep going. And I had a beautiful recognition of that the other day. Not the other day. It was a while back when I launched a product, and the very first iteration of it was, shall we say, rough, because it didn't know what I was doing and I was figuring it out on the fly. But I give a damn about my people and I'm doing my best to do this, and I may fall short. So I spoke to someone after the fact and I was asking them about their experience, and I started off all apologetic, right? Because again, I'm not Wonder Woman. So every once in a while I start going, I'm really sorry, that wasn't my best. And she stopped me and she goes, do you know how many gurus and courses I've seen where people tell me, don't worry about getting it perfect, just get it going. But everything that they put out there is polished within an inch of its life. It's edited, it's cut, it's well lit. It looks like they have obsessed over every single detail of it. And I don't think I can measure up to this. And I just saw you go out there and do a messy recording, but you did the damn thing. And then I went, wait, there's somebody telling me, don't worry about perfection, just get it out there. Going out there, not doing it perfect. And I still feel really good about having attended that session. And I was like, you couldn't have said anything better to me today if you tried. Like, thank you for that.
Oh, that's amazing. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't it make it all worth it and
Mhm.
excited for that next trial, that next attempt, that next move?
Right? To know
Ah,
that you're making an impact on someone, even when you're not perfect. And I think that circles back nicely to that concept that you mentioned about how interesting it is that we can make a huge impact on just one life with things that seem insignificant and minor to us.
mhm.
And the funny thing about putting yourself out there is there's often this pressure to be like the Mother Teresa of internet marketing. Like, I'm going to be the one person that stands out on stage and changes the world, and they will build statues of me. I'm exaggerating this on purpose, but like we put so much pressure on it out there. But you can actually change somebody's life, entire life, with one good idea at the right time.
Yeah.
I know this because we are sitting here because of a series of somebody, I read a book that led me down the path toward copywriting. Somebody approached me after an event and said, I really like your voice. You should start a podcast. And I went, what are you smoking? But then that seed was there
Mm-hmm.
and I started pursuing this. So you can change people's lives with one good idea at the right time. So put it out there.
Yes. Amen to that. Put it out there. Hmm.
I know. We're both just like, this feels so good. I want to circle back to talking about your business a little bit too, because I know that you mentioned before we started recording that at one point your business outgrew you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of a shock. Do you want to dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah. I remember when I was growing my business, I had mentors telling me, you got to read books and, personal development. And this is going back about 10, 15 years ago. And I remember thinking, who are these people and where do they get all their time? I was a new mom trying to build a business and I'm thinking, read a book. Who has time to sit and read a book? So my work ethic is one of my gifts. It also can be something that I have to tame.
Mm-hmm.
But I could work. And so success was superseding me and my leadership. My business outgrew me because I was not doing the inner work, the personal growth and development in order to hold and sustain that success. So I remember when it was just, I couldn't stop it. The momentum was so big. It was beyond my wildest expectations. And I had all these heartbeats looking at me to lead them. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to lead. I especially didn't know how to lead leaders because I hadn't done all that work. So it was painful. I say to people all the time, you will always hit a road bump or block in your business. Sometimes people hit it right from the gates, just getting it started, getting that momentum sparked can feel so painful and so long. And, that's where they sit in the, should I do this? Or maybe I should just go back to what I was doing. Other people hit that on the way to momentum. So they've had some success, but all of a sudden things start to lag or plateau. And they wonder, well, maybe I should just be happy with the success I've already had. And then there's people like myself who end up sort of skipping those roadblocks and then hit them at these pivotal moments. And I'll be honest with you, I can't say one's better than the other, but I would prefer to overcome obstacles and hurdles at the beginning than I would when so many people are looking at you to lead them. So it was a very painful, and I don't mean painful like my heart painful. I mean like painful in terms of humility to really realize I have a lot of growth to do. So I dug deep into personal growth and development. I mean, I went head first in the deep end to it. And I realized there's two things in business. Either you lead your business or your business leads you. And it is way better, a lot more enjoyable when you're leading it because you have the patience and you understand that longevity and sustainability in a business is that like beautiful growth and stacking of success upon one another brick by brick. These rocket ship successes, I love them because they show us what's possible. I had that experience. It showed me what's possible. But on the other side of that rocket ship experience is someone who has to catch up.
Yep.
And again, not one is better than the other. I just have a preference because I've done the skyrocketing.
And so, yeah, it's funny how often that cultural narrative takes over where it's like, The rocket ship has taken off. And so now it's sit back, kick your feet up. We're made in the shade. Nope. New level, new devil. You got a whole other set of problems and now a lot more money to throw at it, thankfully, hopefully. But yeah, new problems. Newsflash, you're not going to run out of problems until the day that you die. No. It's an unfortunate reality of this thing that we call life. Problems, problems, problems. Hopefully, as you're growing, and I love that a theme of this show, a lot of the folks that I've spoken to also talk about how personal development, personal growth was a key to their success. Hopefully you grow to the point where you are trading really crappy, aggravating, annoying problems for better problems. Like, I'd like to solve, okay, well, I just made, 100,000 in sales. How do we fulfill on this? That's a good problem to solve. I will solve that problem. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And sustaining that. There's not a lot of people who I see teaching longevity. I see a lot of people teaching skyrocketing. Mm-hmm. And big sales, big spurts in their business, but I do not see a lot of mentors teaching how to hold and sustain that. And the shame and the guilt and the wavering of belief happens when we have that skyrocket and then it dips. And you liked the way it was when you were up in the stars. That felt good. There was income coming in. People are applauding you. You're getting all this recognition. And when it dips a little bit because nobody taught you how to keep it up there and even push it further and you dip, then all of a sudden that's when it really messes with a person. I mean, it did for me. I'm just being totally transparent. It messes with you because you're thinking to yourself, oh, wait, what did I do wrong? Maybe I'm not meant for this. And I am an advocate for longevity and sustainability. Why are we building something for a 1 month pop of revenue? I believe we're building something that's a legacy that leaves a ripple, leaves the dust in the room long after we've left.
Oh, yes. I love that. And that kind of speaks to another philosophy that I've loved, which is what got you here is not what will get you there.
Right.
And there are so many of us in business that spend our time just repeating the same cycle over and over and over again. And you mentioned doing all this work for a 1 month pop of revenue. I mean, I used to be in the launch world, worked with basically the father of all launches on this. And that was the thing that drove me nuts because it's really, really easy to get stuck in this launch cycle where the bulk of your revenue is coming from producing these big events and working your tail off in the interim. And I'm like, I'm a marketer at heart. You could systematize this and do smaller promotions and launches throughout the year that are going to take way less energy, way less resources, fewer pieces to break, and granted, not as much publicity and eyeballs and not the dump of millions that you would get from a big launch. But over time, that effort evens out. And you wind up getting similar results, if not even better results, because you have the space to think versus jumping from launch to launch.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh my gosh. I want to talk to you about all of this all day, but I want to respect your time. So tell us a little bit more about Becoming Iconic, how we can learn more about you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me. This was really a beautiful opportunity and time and conversation. So I would suggest if people want to get to know me on a deeper level, obviously go over to the podcast. It's called Becoming Iconic and it's all on all podcast platforms. It's pretty simple to find me. There is the magazine. So the digital copy is free. They can go over to my Instagram, Becoming Iconic, and you can see it there and download the copy and see, just how exciting that magazine gets to be for you. And of course, there's a website, becomingiconic.co. So it's .co.
Excellent. I'm going to make sure that they have clickable links in the show notes. And thank you so much for being on the show with me. It's been so much fun.
It has, Angie. Thank you.
So that is it. Another awesome episode of Permission to Kick Ass on the books. If you want to know more about the show, if you want to know more about me, Angie Coley, and the mission I'm on to help entrepreneurs punch fear in the face and do big, bold things, then head on over to permissiontokickass.com. That is all one word together, permissiontokickass.com. Make sure to sign up for my email list so that you know whenever there's a hot, fresh, and ready podcast episode out for you. And also on Mondays, I like to send out a little newsletter called Kick Monday's Ass. I'm sure you're totally surprised by that. So thank you for being here with me today. I'm Angie Coley. Make sure that you share this with a friend that needs to hear this message today. Like it, share it, comment wherever you're listening to this today, and let's go kick some ass.